Hello and welcome to the Ohio Arts Council's Rife Gallery. This is our programming series for the current exhibition, Arts Beacon of Light, and I'm thrilled that we have writer and poet Nancy Kangas with us today to facilitate the creative writing workshop DIY video for you all. Welcome, Nancy. So glad to have you. Before we get started, we are going to tell you about the links that you have in the resources. So it's available in the video description. You can link to the images that are a part of this exhibition, as well as the poems that were used in the live version of the creative writing workshop. So hop into those descriptions and grab those two things. They'll be really helpful for your experience. And before we get started, make sure you pause this video and gather everything that you need in order to fully participate and be present with us. However you like to write is great. So grab those items and we'll be right here. All right, and now to you, Nancy.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here. And I love facilitating workshops. And this one is really special because we get to react to art as well as writing to launch our own writing. This kind of writing is called ekphrasis. And you can see it's a way to look at an art and think about it in a way that you reflect in your writing. The first thing we're going to do is I've chosen a theme that I call Notes to Ourselves. This is the way I think of this first section of writing, this first exercise. And I think it would work best if we began by choosing a piece of art that you are interested in, and one in particular that has a lot of repetition or plays with a theme and changes a little bit. So I'll stop here so that you can look through the slides and pick a piece of art that calls you. So the next thing, with that piece of art in mind, but not maybe in front of you, but not necessarily, I'm going to be asking a series of what I think of as priming the pump questions. I sometimes call them pre-writing questions. I'm very influenced by a poet, John Sands, and his emotional historians workshop. And so a lot of this is things that I've learned there. And these questions aren't meant to be answered like a survey, really. They're just meant to get to see what sparks. And often you can even be answering these with things that don't feel true, or maybe they feel true for somebody else or true for you at some time, but the important thing is not to get too hung up on like getting it right. It's just to kind of priming the pump, and I think that's why it's a good call to call it primer questions. And you can answer these. I've just picked a few of this. You can probably see that they're a little, maybe feel a little random, but they're to see what kind of meaning or what kind of things are important to you, and they'll to help you play with the writing when you do begin writing. Let me ask you these, what I think of as pre-writing primer questions. One of them is, what is a truth you resist accepting? I'm going to ask them kind of quickly here, but you can take as much time, or I actually recommend taking no longer than a minute or so with each one of these, just to keep yourself on your toes. The next one is, what is something remarkable, either something very small or something very obvious or something kind of awkward in the artwork that you chose? In other words, kind of what is jumping out at you? Another question is, what is not present in the artwork? What is not there at all? I'm going to always ask something that's, or I recommend that you ask yourself this too, because it's always interesting to get tension, and you can always look at what is there, but by looking at it's not there, you're heightening the tension of your writing or of your thinking too. Once you've answered those questions, we can also go on to the next part, and that is, if you could rename this artwork and begin with instructions on blank, how would you finish that title? And this question really ties into the Ada Limon poem that I hope you had a chance to read. And her poem is Instructions on Not Giving Up. And her poem begins, more than the fuchsia funnels breaking out of the crabapple tree, more than a neighbor's almost obscene display of cherry limbs. She goes on, but already you can see she's playing with a piece of repetition there. And if you could rename that artwork Instructions on, maybe it would be Instructions on Sadness, or Instructions on Optimism, or Instructions on Getting Out. Anything, what jumps into your head? Here's a piece of art that I chose. It's a piece called My Ohio. I was drawn to all of the artists' works in this series. And I'm suggesting that taking this piece of art that you chose, take some 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes to write. I think I'm thinking in terms of poetry, but maybe you're thinking in terms of a story or an essay or a song, or whatever kind of writing that you enjoy. So that somehow includes repetition. And maybe you'll choose to, like Ada Limon did, start with a sentence like more than something, more than something. Also, I hope that you read Ross Gay's poem, Sorrow is Not My Name. He has a lot of lines that you could borrow, pieces of lines. And I'm always doing that. I'm looking to poems to figure out what's inside of them that I might borrow. He begins his poem with, no matter the pull toward brink, no matter the florid deep sleeps awaits. You might try something like that, no matter, I don't know, where your theme leads you. And yes, the reason we do the primer writing is so that by the time you're ready to hit this draft stage, you've already got a page of images or ideas or something that's like interesting to you, so that you don't head into your writing time with a blank page and a feeling of fear, which never helps anybody's writing. Okay, this next, what I think of as pod, I think I called hearing voices or inventing a character. And to get us started, I'm going to suggest that you choose one of these pieces of art that for you has kind of a strong character. It doesn't have to be a human. It can be an inanimate object, a plant or an animal, or even, a bowl. There, we've got some bowls in there that might feel like characters to you. Something that's like has a strong personality or a voice, something that you're drawn to. And now we're going to do I hope you'll have a chance to read Mark Leidner's poem, Hey, Will You Buy My Graphic Novel? Because in that poem, the speaker has a very strong voice and you really get the sense of this character. And that will help give you an idea of a way that you can play with your writing. For the primer writing questions for this pod, I'm going to suggest that you name 3 situations your character truly desires. What are 3 things or 3, like I say, situations, like they really, really want to be in the middle of a forest, or they would love to be out of this house, whatever house they're in. Some situations your character truly desires. And you might need to stop this because that might take you just a little longer than I'm going to give it right here. But and now if you could name, I'm going to suggest that you name one image that is not in this work that you associate with your character. And let's say it is the bowl. So not in the bowl is perhaps, what would you associate? I'm not going to say that out. Whatever, something that it could be something inanimate or animate. And this will be fun to see what image pops into your head. And images are always something that help our writing, re-grounded in an image. And feel free to write more than one. That's often what I do with the pre-writing or prime the pump questions. I just keep going if I've got something. And what sounds exist in the world of this piece of art? it's always really helpful to get the sensory images in. So if there's more than one sound, or if you've got a smell that is particularly seems really present for you, name that too. And this next one will really help, I think, sharpen your character's voice. Who is your character talking to? Is it somebody in particular? Is it all of us? Or is it like to its brother? Or is it to somebody it really, really wants to convince of something? I think that'll help you steer your way into this character's voice. And who is listening? Maybe this person isn't listening. Maybe we're all listening. Okay. Let's see. This is now, I think, oh, these are some more of our priming questions here. What are some truths your character knows that aren't obvious in the work? You can include that if you can. Something it knows that we might not know, we might not see just by looking at this work. What would they be talking about? And what would they be not talking about? What would they be hiding? What would they trying to not bring to the table that brings out their personality too? And I'm going to suggest you take about 15 minutes or so and write either a poem, a story, an essay, a journal, a piece of journal writing that that makes me listen to your character. And I'm going to suggest you actually put yourself into this character's voice. It's fun, I think, to not be this person, have it not be your voice, although maybe you'll try that too. Maybe it's another part of your personality. But I chose this amazing rose that I felt like could have spoken Mark Leidner's poem. It felt like it had something to say, but I think I could make this rose say something else too, that was outside of what I, Nancy Kangas, might say, and that's fun. This third writing exercise, or sometimes I think it's games, I call declarations, and it's really based on it's launched off the poem by Lucille Clifton that I hope you'll have a chance to read, called I Am Running into a New Year. And to begin, I think I'm going to, yes, before we even choose a piece of art, we're going to start with the priming questions first this time to see how that feels. And I'm going to suggest you name a time when you felt outside of yourself, or outside of your comfort zone, or a little disoriented, or just not really clear where you were. And you don't have to name it in great detail, but just know where in time and place you were when that happened. This might be similar, but can you name a time when you felt pushed either by yourself or someone else? Again, it's a little bit like somewhere a little bit outside, a little bit uncomfortable. And I'm asking you these questions, by the way, not so that you can fit all of this information into the poem. That's more just to, like, one of these questions might hit really well. One of the another question might be like, I got nothing for that one. So you just go on, and it's just to see what sparks. And again, it doesn't have to even be true. You can just be, if you can make it true, then you're onto something. And the next question is, name a time when you felt particularly brave or strong or courageous, when you did something that you brought forth something you didn't think you had. And if you wanted to do this, I didn't think to name this, but if you wanted to say sometime when you felt like, oh, I blew it, you could go that too, but that sounded less fun to me. But you might name a time when you had strong regrets. That might bring up something interesting. The next one is, what is something you hope to leave behind? And it can either be something tangible, an actual object, or something small or big, or some feeling, or something in the category of legacy. Maybe that brings out something for you. I was really struck by this piece, Three Kings. And this is a piece that I chose that had one of the feelings that I was thinking of. I think my feeling, this actually really connected with with Lucille Clifton's I'm Running into a New Year, which is for me, a very hopeful and yet full of forgiveness, and there's a tinge of regret in it. Anyway, this piece kind of held that feeling for me. So I'm going to suggest that you take 5 minutes or more, as long as you have steam. I'd say go until you run out of steam, but at least 5 minutes, and play with the idea of writing a declaration, or writing on one of the pieces of the primer questions that really struck with you. And you can borrow Lucille Clifton's I am running into new year. You can change it up by saying I am walking into a new year, or I am stumbling into a new year. Or you can try I will run into a new year if you want to make it aspirational. And you can also borrow some of Lucille Clifton's ideas of what you will leave behind, and what you beg from others. She has a line, I beg what I love and I leave to forgive me. Maybe there's something that you can use of hers, some of the words. Okay, this next one, this next pod, our last pod here, I'm calling Tell Me How to Do This. And it's kind of like writing instructions for things you don't think you usually need instructions for. And I hope you get a chance to read the poem, How to Get to Boyland. It was written by a 9th grader who I was writing with in Bucyrus, Ohio. And we don't usually, well, maybe we do give ourselves instructions on how to get to Boyland, but hers is a wonderful poem about how she thought you might get there. So we're going to start with this time picking an artwork that you think has a message for you, because we're looking to write instructions, unusual or surprising instructions. And now with your artwork, either in front of you or in the back of your head, in your mind, here are some of the questions that I think that might help I hope might spark something. What does this piece of artwork, what does it want you to know, or what does it want you to do? Does it want you to go somewhere, or take care of something? All right. And that's what leads me to the next question. What does it have demands? Maybe they're polite demands, maybe they're strong demands. Or maybe they're gifts. Maybe there's something it wants to give you. Just kind of a softer, more benevolent way of thinking of a demand, or not a demand at all. The next question is, can you name actions that are taking place in the work? What is moving, or what is happening in the work? And you might list 5 verbs. Say something running or spinning or stopping, and they don't have to be really loud verbs. It can be something sleeping or something hiding. See if you can name 5 actions that you think that are happening in there. And this, all of these questions, by the way, they make me, I think of them, and some of them I'm borrowing directly from John Sands, but some of them, they're just like, oh, let's see what happens when we ask this one. Does this piece remind you of any common phrases, like something that you hear? Can you hear somebody saying, like, get out of here, or won't you come in? Or some other common phrase is something that it feels there's something that you hear when you listen to this piece of art. I felt this one really matched Madison's How to Get to Boyland. There's a lot of action in it and a lot of purpose and direction. So what I'm suggesting now is to take some time, 10 minutes, see if you've got enough steam for that, and write what the instructions are. And you can even, the instructions of this piece of art might be. And I think it's helpful to say how to blank. And you can think of it like directions, but I think it's fun to be playful with those kinds of directions, and not get too literal and mix it up and and surprise us with what those directions are. And you might include what's the art trying to tell you, and again, who is this? Who are these instructions addressed to? I think how to get to Boyland was to all of us who want to get to Boyland, but maybe yours is going to be more specific, and it's maybe to your mother, and it's like how to understand me, or you want to make it more specific like that. Thank you so much for being interested in writing, and thank you to the Rife Gallery for giving us all the chance to think about art and think about writing in a really playful and rich way. I think it's amazing when we give ourselves time to play with being expressive, and I'm really glad to have been a part of this.
So folks, if you need to see more of Nancy Kangas and learn more about her work, here are some great links for you to follow. We'll also drop that into the description for you. Thank you, Nancy. If you'd like to share with us what you've written, please do so. We always love to hear from artists. And if you'd like more programming, you can always find it on our Facebook page or on our YouTube page. And a special note to educators, we do have an extensive library that you can use just as a springboard and to get to know these artists better and be able to pull that into your curriculum, including the writers that facilitate. So thank you again for joining for the programming series for the Arts Beacon of Light exhibition here at the Ohio Arts Council's Rife Gallery. Big thank you to the governor, legislature, and the Ohio Arts Council's board who supports the Ohio Arts Council, this great space, and of course, Ohio artists. Thanks, everyone.